I had always believed that marriage was more than love, it was a partnership, a team. After spending over a decade building my business from the ground up, I thought it was time to share the responsibility with my wife. She had always been supportive, attending every conference, meeting every client with a smile, and celebrating every small milestone as if it were her own. I thought it was natural that the person I trusted most would also want to help guide the company into the next stage. One evening, over dinner in our modern New York apartment overlooking the skyline, I mentioned that I wanted to officially hand her the reins for a few areas: marketing, operations, and employee management. Her eyes lit up, and she took my hand, assuring me she could handle it. "Don't worry," she said. "I've got this, and I want us to grow together." I smiled, feeling proud and relieved. Finally, I wouldn't have to carry the weight of the business alone. The first month went smoothly. She sent me updates, asked my opinion occasionally, and seemed genuinely enthusiastic. I told myself that this was the kind of teamwork I had always imagined in marriage. It felt good to let go of some control, to see someone else managing things efficiently. I even started taking some time off, weekends, dinners with friends, and occasional trips, something I hadn't allowed myself in years. I thought I had found the perfect balance: love, trust, and partnership. Then subtle changes started to appear. Emails I had sent were marked as read but never responded to. Decisions were made without my knowledge, contracts signed, meetings scheduled, and budgets shifted. At first, I brushed it off, assuming she was just trying to handle things her way. But then employees began whispering, giving me strange looks when I came into the office. One morning, my assistant hesitated before handing me a file. "Didn't she approve this already?" she asked nervously. Something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. I confronted my wife one evening. "I feel like I'm being left out of decisions I built this company for," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. She laughed softly, a hint of irritation in her tone. "You worry too much," she said. "I'm just trying to help, but you need to trust me." "Relax." I nodded, but inside, unease was growing. Trust had been my foundation, but now it was shaking. The real shock came a few weeks later. I received a legal notice from the company. A major decision had been made regarding financial restructuring, one that I had no idea about. My name wasn't even on the documents anymore. It hit me like a punch to the chest. The person I loved and trusted the most, the one I believed had my back, had taken steps without consulting me. I tried to call her, to ask what was happening, but she didn't answer. My heart sank, and for the first time, fear replaced pride. I realized that handing over control had been riskier than I ever imagined, and that the person I trusted might not have shared my vision after all. The next morning, I walked into the office with a pit in my stomach. The familiar hum of computers and chatter of employees felt different, tense, almost hostile. My assistant avoided eye contact, and my colleagues whispered behind closed doors. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was overreacting, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. My heart sank as I logged into the company's internal portal. Files had been moved, emails deleted, and financial decisions made without my knowledge. Everything I had spent years building was being quietly rewritten by someone I trusted most. I called my wife, hoping to understand, but she answered with a calmness that chilled me. "Everything's under control," she said. "I'm making decisions for the good of the company. You should trust me more." Her words were polite but cold, devoid of any hint of the warmth that had drawn me to her. I asked about the restructuring, the new hires, and the contracts that had been signed without me, but she brushed each question aside. It was clear she had a plan, and I was no longer part of it. As days passed, the reality hit me harder. She had brought in an entirely new management team, people I didn't know, people loyal only to her. Funds were being redirected, and critical business partnerships were being altered in ways I didn't authorize. Even employees who had once been close to me now hesitated to speak, afraid of her wrath or perhaps eager to align with her power. My presence in the company, once respected, felt almost irrelevant. I realized that my wife had spent months quietly consolidating control while I trusted her completely. Friends and business partners noticed the shift too. Meetings that I had previously led were now dominated by her. Clients were confused when they saw her name on contracts instead of mine. I felt humiliated, but also enraged. How could the person I loved, the woman I had shared my life and dreams with, betray me so completely? My nights became restless, filled with questions I couldn't answer. Did she resent me for success? Was it ambition, revenge, or simply a hunger for control? One evening, I confronted her again, this time at home, voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "Why are you doing this? Why take over everything I built?" I demanded. She looked at me calmly, almost amused. "You were holding the company back," she said. "I'm just making it better." Her words felt like ice. She wasn't apologetic, she was proud of her actions. It became clear to me that this was no misunderstanding, no lapse in judgment, it was intentional. I spent the next days observing, trying to understand her strategy. Each move she made was calculated, precise, and ruthless. My wife had transformed the empire I had nurtured with late nights, stress, and sacrifice into her own domain. The betrayal was total, and I was left outside, powerless, staring at the world I had built crumbling under someone else's hands. I knew that I couldn't stay passive. Something had to change. 3 months into this nightmare, the final blow came without warning. I arrived at the office one morning, expecting the usual greetings, only to be met with cold stares and hushed whispers. Something felt wrong immediately. When I entered the conference room, my heart sank. The board was assembled, my board. But instead of discussing strategy or projects, they were reviewing a document that would change everything, my termination. I froze. My name was officially removed from the company's executive positions. My wife, sitting at the head of the table, looked calm, composed, almost triumphant. She had orchestrated this entire takeover flawlessly, rewriting contracts, shifting authority, and ensuring every legal loophole favored her. My own employees, people I had mentored and trusted, now avoided my eyes, unwilling to challenge her. It was as if overnight, I had become invisible in the empire I had built from scratch. I felt a surge of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak collide. How could the woman I had loved, trusted, and shared my life with systematically dismantle my position without a hint of remorse? Every late night, every sacrifice, every risk I had taken to grow the company now seemed meaningless. I confronted her in the room, voice shaking but loud enough for the board to hear. "This is my company. How could you do this?" Her response was cold and unapologetic. "I've done what's necessary," she said. "You've been too complacent. I'm building a future, and I can't do that with you holding me back." Her words cut deeper than any betrayal I had imagined. This wasn't just about business, it was personal. She had carefully planned every move, and I had been blind to it, blinded by love and trust. Walking out of that boardroom felt like leaving behind a part of myself. The office that had once been a symbol of achievement and pride now felt like a prison of humiliation. I couldn't speak to anyone without feeling the weight of embarrassment. Friends and colleagues, though sympathetic, didn't fully understand the depth of the betrayal. I was not only ousted from my company but also from the life I had thought we shared. Yet, even in that moment of despair, a small spark of defiance ignited within me. I realized that while she had won this battle, she had not broken me entirely. The experience, painful as it was, had shown me the harsh truth. Blind trust in someone else's intentions can be dangerous, and power can shift quickly if not guarded carefully. I had lost my empire, yes, but I had not lost my mind or my will. As I left the building that day, I made a silent promise to myself. I would not allow this betrayal to define me. I would find a way to fight back, to reclaim my dignity, and perhaps, in time, my rightful place. But first, I had to regroup, understand the full scope of what had been done, and plan my next steps carefully. The person who had once shared my dreams had turned into the architect of my downfall, but I would not remain powerless forever. After the humiliation of losing my company, I retreated from the public eye to collect my thoughts and plan my next move. I knew that anger alone wouldn't help me. I needed strategy, patience, and evidence. The woman I had trusted most had outmaneuvered me in every way, but I was determined not to let betrayal define the rest of my life. I started by hiring a top corporate lawyer to review every contract, email, and transaction she had made since taking control. As the days passed, I uncovered the full scope of her actions. She hadn't just fired me, she had manipulated board members, redirected funds into accounts under her control, and systematically removed anyone loyal to me. Every move she had made was premeditated. At first, the weight of the deception was overwhelming. But slowly, as the evidence mounted, my anger transformed into focus. I realized that while she had taken the business, she had left me with something she couldn't touch: knowledge, experience, and a will to rebuild. I reached out to former employees and allies who had been hesitant to speak up before. Many had been intimidated by her authority, but once they saw the evidence, their loyalty shifted back to me. Together, we identified weak points in her control and legal vulnerabilities. I began preparing a case to reclaim at least part of the business I had built. The fight was not just for money or power, it was for justice, dignity, and the principle that betrayal could not go unchecked. Outside of the legal battle, I focused on rebuilding myself. Long hours at the office were replaced by planning sessions, networking, and strategizing. I met with investors and partners, presenting new ideas and showing them the truth behind the takeover. Slowly, doors that had been closed to me reopened. Every small victory strengthened my resolve, reminding me that I was not defined by someone else's greed or ambition. Through this process, I also learned harsh lessons about trust. Blind faith, even in the person you love most, can be dangerous. I realized that in business and life, boundaries are essential. Love and partnership must coexist with respect for individual responsibility. Betrayal had taught me to be cautious, but it also taught me resilience. I would not let my past failures dictate my future. Months later, while the legal battle continued, I stood taller than ever. My wife's empire, built on manipulation and deceit, had its vulnerabilities. I had regained the respect of colleagues, friends, and even some of the board members she had swayed. More importantly, I had regained my confidence and clarity of purpose. The experience had been brutal, but it had also transformed me. I was no longer just the man who had built a business, I was a man who had faced betrayal, endured humiliation, and emerged stronger and wiser. In the end, I understood that life would never be the same, but I had a choice: remain a victim or reclaim my power. I chose the latter. The fight was far from over, but I was ready. I was no longer blinded by love, nor by trust. I saw clearly now, and nothing could break my resolve.